Once you've been issued your skateboard deck, write your name on top of it with ink. This is the only time you'll write on wood with ink. Here's one notch. They're hard to find, so you have to look closely at your skateboard. There is one on each end. Here's the second notch. Next, you'll need to locate a tri-square. A tri-square is a metal L-shaped ruler like this. They're located at the tool station. Put the wooden end of the tri-square flat against the edge of the skateboard deck and line up the metal ruler part with the side notch. Then take a pencil and draw a straight line from the side notch along the metal ruler. You only need to draw about 8 inches or so. Draw a line for the second end notch. We only use a pencil when writing on wood unless the wood is not going to be seen. That's why you write your name with a pen, because skateboards are usually covered with grip tape. The next step is to ask for the plastic template from the teacher assistants. The template should be behind the checkout counter. It's made of solid clear plastic. Place it onto your board and line up the end notches with the center line that's been drawn down the center of the plastic template. Take a pencil, press the plastic template lightly against the wood, press your pencil lightly against the edge of the template, and carefully trace the oval shape onto your wood. Make sure your pencil line is precise, because otherwise you won't be able to carve out the shape precisely. Again, you're holding the pencil lightly against the edge of the plastic. When you're done, you might want to show your teacher just to make sure you've done it correctly before you move on to the next step. Return the template to the checkout counter. The bandsaw is a very powerful cutting tool, but it is really only made for cutting straight lines in wood and plastic. It is not made for cutting severe, sharp turns or angles. So you're going to try to carve your board out with as many straight lines as you can. And the blade guard right here needs to be lowered so that it's just barely above your work, whatever you're going to cut. So you adjust the blade guard right here, loosen the handle, and slide the post up and down. You're going to cut a skate deck. You want the guides to be right above the deck, and then tighten it up. Okay. Now, as you can see, this is a pretty long line to have to cut. And what happens if you make a mistake or you have to stop halfway through that cut? From this point up to here, that's a pretty long time, because you need to go slowly and carefully when you cut. So if you get halfway through this cut and you have a long groove, the blade is stuck inside a long groove, and you want to stop, what do? Well, you stop, of course, but to make it easier on yourself, we're going to make some things that are called relief cuts. Relief cuts! But if you see these little lines right here, I've drawn those all the way around the outline of my deck, every 5 or 6 inches or so. And they're all the way around. And I'm going to cut a short line, a short groove on these lines, Those are relief cuts. And what that does is, when I start cutting the board, and say I start from this point here and start doing a semi-straight line, when I get to that relief cut, this piece of wood is going to drop away. It's going to fall off. Now when you're ready to use the bandsaw and make your relief cuts, you're going to cut straight and slow and carefully. Stop right before you touch the shape that you've drawn on the board. You don't want the blade to actually touch that oval shape. You want it to stop right before it does touch it. Just a sliver of space between the relief cut and the edge of the deck that you drew. So cut slow and straight. Just right up to the edge, stop, and then slowly back it out. Try to go slower than that even. Continue making relief cuts all the way around the shape of your deck, every 8 or 9 inches, and move very slowly. Don't try to make any turns or curves or sudden jerky movements with the blade. Move the board slowly into the blade and in as straight a line as you can possibly get. Now, when I go to cut this piece of wood, like I said before, this whole corner is going to fall off because of these 2 relief cuts that I made. 1, 2 relief cuts to get rid of this whole piece of wood. Using as many straight lines as I can. Turn on the saw. First I'm going to do a straight line from here to there. You see the way I'm holding it? I have one hand here that's far away from the blade, and my other hand is way out here. I'm going to keep it flat on the bench. Do a straight line from this relief cut to this one. Nice and slow. When I get to that first relief cut, then this piece drops away and I can stop and take a breather. Now if you see, I got very close to my drawing, but I didn't actually touch the drawing. I followed it parallel to my drawing. I left a little bit of excess there that I'm going to sand away later. Next one, I'm going to do a straight-ish line from here to there. Another piece I can throw that away. Sorry. There I got really close. The goal is to cut off as much wood as you possibly can without actually going over your pencil line. And so you got to make sure your hand doesn't slip and you have a good steady good. Now, if for some reason you need to stop cutting and back it out, just move super slowly and carefully back it out. Okay? But you want to try to avoid that, but if you need to back it out, just move twice as slowly as you did when you were cutting. Use your board or some other piece of wood to knock scraps away from the blade, so you don't have to use your hand. And if you want to go back and cut more off, you can always cut more off. You can cut more off, but you can't put it back on. So if you want to, you can whittle away at it gradually. You can also put your board behind the blade and have one hand out here behind the blade and slide the board through like this. I got closer and closer by cutting gradually more and more. So I can do this. I'll do the same thing on this side. Gradually more and more and more. Whoops. You see there, I started to cut in a wrong direction, so I just stopped and back it out. You don't want to go over your pencil line. You really don't want to touch the pencil line either like that. I'll have to sand that down to get rid of that mistake. And now I have to actually step over to the side and grab the back of the board here, which is this thing, and slide the board through.